In this edition of Southern Newsweek, chocolate proves to be entertaining during a demonstration at the Otago Museum. Also at the museum, the tropical forest is due for a makeover, and Dunedin mourns the passing of the godfather of the Dunedin sound. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin children on holiday from school explored the science of chocolate at Otago Museum. Free samples of chocolate ice cream made in an instant were provided by science wizard Amadeo Enriquez Ballestero. Roselle Lebone was there.
Have you ever wondered what an evaporated chocolate cloud smells like, or how to make ice cream in less than a minute? Well, wonder no more.
Ingredients that I'm going to be cooking with, and the first is going to be this chocolate which I'm melting.
The Otago Museum is celebrating the science behind chocolate with a series of school holiday demonstrations, part of the Cadbury Chocolate Carnival. Those in the front row had a direct encounter with liquid nitrogen, and the fiery demonstration of chocolate's explosive power definitely made an impression.
So this is going to go, and hydrogen actually really burns. Let's do it. Touch the balloon. That's it.
Some children had the chance to enjoy the taste of warm liquid chocolate. Meanwhile, the crowds lined up for the main attraction, free ice cream. This one was made with the help of a willing volunteer from the audience. Some cream, sugar, chocolate and a pinch of nitrogen.
Oh, it's quite creamy.
Luckily, there was just enough for everyone to enjoy an ice cream sandwich, which received the thumbs up from the young attendees. The event will run again at 2 p.m. this Friday. Roselle Lebone, The South Today.
The Otago Museum is undergoing a $2.5 million upgrade of Discovery World and the tropical forest. The museum says no new butterflies will be released during construction, and those in the tropical forest will be left to live out their natural lives. Birds and tarantulas are to remain in an animal-friendly construction zone.
Otago Museum will be a mostly butterfly-free zone for the next 4 months. Discovery World and the tropical forest are closed to the public for refurbishment until December, and no more butterflies will be released until then.
We've been open for about 10 years now, so the forest is kind of ready for us to breathe some new life into the space, and it's also going to be a chance for us to just give everything a really good clean and care for.
Butterflies live for between 2 weeks to 12 months. The refurbishment will focus on cleaning and rebuilding mostly behind-the-scenes areas, as well as installing new interactive science exhibits. Otago Museum Living Environments communicator Eden Gray says the birds and tarantulas will be protected and remain in their natural environment throughout construction.
It shouldn't take us that long because on average our deliveries of butterflies contain up to about 1,000 live pupae, so it won't take long for our forest to be full of them again. During our reopening in summer they're going to be flying everywhere.
About 90,000 people visited the space last year. Roselle Lebone, The South Today.
This year's International Film Festival will see the release of a Christchurch-based film about the environmental plight of Canterbury's rivers. Rudy Adrian has more.
Christchurch-based filmmaker Galen Barnes has in recent years become concerned about the state of Canterbury's rivers. The rivers of Canterbury are said to be the most polluted in the country. The original inspiration for her film Seven Rivers came from when she was invited to film a walk along the Selwyn River and learned firsthand about the poor environmental quality of the river.
I'd only just got myself a camera and some sound gear, so I was thinking, oh, I've got the gear now, I can just go and film it myself. You know, I don't need to go and get money and funding and all the rest, I can just go and shoot it. So I did. So I went and shot the Selwyn Hikoi. And I actually just sort of discovered, it was a bit of a journey of learning for me about what actually was going on with the rivers. And I was pretty shocked at that point about how bad the Selwyn River had got.
Forest and Birds Colleen Phillip is pleased that the issue is being addressed and hopes the film's message will get through to the public.
Individually and collectively we have to do something. We have to put pressure on our leadership, on our political leaders, both nationally and regionally, to do what they should have been doing and what they should be doing. But also we have to take responsibility ourselves and step up, because these rivers are in crisis. They need us, and they need us now.
Seven Rivers will screen across New Zealand as part of the International Film Festival. The Dunedin premiere of Seven Rivers is early September. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
For Invercargill children, the school holidays have not been filled with boredom. A number of the city businesses provided plenty of ways to keep children entertained. Sharon Rees reports.
The last of the school holiday programs wrapped up in Invercargill today, ending what organisers say was another successful 2 weeks. Parents and children were given a number of options to cure their holiday boredom, with a range of free activities at the Invercargill City Library and a chance for kids to get their hands and faces dirty.
Having these programs for school children is incredibly important for us. We like to be a nice, comfortable and safe space for families to come over the holidays. It's also really important that we're a free space so that we can provide activities for families who might not be able to afford all the other activities that are on, like the pool and things that do cost money.
Children visiting SPCA Southland yesterday were given lessons in animal safety before enjoying hands-on interaction with some furry friends. Over at Aurora College, the Sport Down South holiday program encouraged students to use up some energy with sports such as ripper rugby and boxing, while others tried their hand at some stone painting. Heading the event was world champion weightlifter Sonia Menina, who said the program was organised to motivate young people to be active in sport and exercise. While the holidays are finishing up for the kids, these program coordinators might get a much needed holiday of their own. I'm Sharon Rees for The South Today.
A man once called the godfather of Dunedin music scene has passed on. Roy Colbert ran the music shop Record Records in Stewart Street during the heyday of what's known as the Dunedin Sound. His passing has been felt not only by those closest in his hometown, but also around the world. Daryl Basin knew him well.
As frontman with the Verlaines, Graham Downs was one of the many who knew Roy Colbert and was a frequent visitor to his store Records. Downs says Roy Colbert's passing is being felt across the world.
Expected, but pretty crushing anyway. It's, pretty much a measure of the man's influence on so many people and so much history. It makes you reflect on so much history that's happened that probably in a town this size had no right to happen, really. So it's a really big deal for a lot of people. I've been fielding emails from all around the world today about it. So yeah, it's huge.
He says in recent years, Roy has been essential in helping with the Tally Ho series, and says his skills will be greatly missed, as much as his humility.
Pretty humble guy. He's great to deal with. Especially with the Tally Ho things, and fortunately, he's been around for me to work with him on the second version in November. So he's invaluable because he's got a really good idea, had a really good idea of what the essence of a good song was, and which ones he thought would work. And we really kind of worked as a team to dream up. He'd say, we think you should do this one, and I go, no, I'm not going to. It's no, this one, it's very give and take. But I'd go around even until just recently playing orchestrations in progress, and it's just invaluable because you get to, when you're in the room with him, you listen with Roy's ears, not your ears. You get used to things and you don't, and then all of a sudden you're listening to it totally afresh.
Roy Colbert was also a well-respected columnist, writing about music and golf for international audiences. Writer and poet Gayleen remembers Roy as a fellow journalist.
Well, I know that he will definitely be missed. And a lot of people got a lot of fond memories of him. He was like a dad figure to quite a few of us.
As Graham Downs says, Roy Colbert's passing is being felt throughout the world, as many people are sharing memories of him through social media. Yesterday, Dunedin lost one of its most humble and gentle men. I remember being a relatively unconfident 20-year-old and taking a cassette release hidden to him. He was gracious, humble, and always supportive. My thoughts are with the family at this time. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Still to come on the Southern Newsweek, the school holidays were definitely not boring in Invercargill, and a giant burger in Geraldine doesn't stand a chance against an overseas visitor. Welcome back. Last weekend's storm saw floodwaters rise across Otago. Rosalie LeBon reported on Saturday's deluge as it happened.
A state of emergency continues today in and around Dunedin after 200 properties were evacuated across Otago last night. As of midday today, Dunedin Civil Defence is advising several rural properties in the Mill Creek area, Taieri, to self-evacuate because of concerns about the structure of the pump station due to high river flows. Taieri River sits alongside Dunedin Airport and buildings in the lower parts of the airport were flooded. New Zealand Defence Force personnel have been working alongside ORC staff and contractors to block a hole alongside the Mill Creek pump station on the Taieri River stop banks. Ravenswood Street, Fraser's Bay Gully track and Second Beach track at St Clair are all closed, and some houses have been evacuated due to a slip. There are approximately 25 other slips on roads across the city, many of them on the Otago Peninsula.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst in 20 years, mate.
Clearance work on a slip at Harrington Point Road will not start until at least Monday. Residents on the Otago Peninsula north of Harwood are effectively cut off, with no alternative access route available. These pictures, taken by ORC staff over the Taieri this morning, show surface flooding has affected roads around the wider city, including Outram Bridge, Henley Berwick Road, Taieri River floodway at Otokea Henley Township and Riverside Road. This aerial view shows the extent of the flooding of the Clutha in South Otago. Mayor Dave Cull said at a press conference at midday, flood levels at Outram are the second highest ever recorded for the Taieri River. When the floodgates opened, over 100 cubic metres of water were flowing per second.
Taieri is as high as it's ever been, except for one other occasion in 1980 that we know of. So this is a very significant event.
From yesterday morning to 7 a.m. today, about 223 millimetres of rain was recorded at Swampy Spur and 114 millimetres at Rickerton Road near Mosgiel. Musselburgh had recorded about 81 millimetres. And power has been lost to a number of areas overnight, including Old Brighton Road, Green Island Bush Road and St Leonard's Drive. The Army assisted Civil Defence in rescuing 9 people trapped in and on cars on State Highway 87 early this morning. A number of fords and roads will remain closed until they have been properly assessed. Staff are cleaning on a priority basis. I'm Rosalie LeBon for The South Today.
Lawrence was one of the many Otago towns affected by last weekend's storm. The locals are still assessing the damage wrought by the flooding. Rudy Adrian reports.
Several businesses in Lawrence's Ross Street were hit by flooding in the weekend's deluge. The Wild Walnut Cafe was one of those hit hardest, with a clearly visible mark from the 60 centimetres of water from the flooding.
There again we had 2 feet of water, so all of the small appliances, things like that, are pretty much toast. Yeah, there again it's in the walls, lost all the carpeting, floor coverings. Yeah, it's going to be a while before we can get this all sorted back up again.
The owners of the cafe managed to get to Lawrence early on Saturday, where they worked hard with sandbags to protect the cafe from more damage.
It's one of those things that you're never prepared for it. When it happens, it's like, gosh, yeah, where do we go from here except try and clean it up and rebuild it and keep on going.
The council is aware of sewer overflows in both Milton and Lawrence, and as a precaution, floodwaters should be treated as contaminated. People whose properties were damaged by flooding can register online with the council. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
The Labour Party has labelled the Prime Minister's comments on immigration changes as an abrupt backflip. They accuse National of not understanding the immigration problem. Mina Amso investigated.
Labour leader Andrew Little has labelled National's stance on proposed immigration changes as an abrupt backflip. In a statement, he said the government's policy was a one-size-fits-all approach that failed to consider regional and industry variations, and their backflip shows that the wheels are falling off the economic plan. Mr Little is proposing a regional visas policy and would work with local businesses, councils and unions to identify skills a region needs and help migrants work there. In an interview last week, Labour Housing spokesperson Ian Lees-Galloway told The South Today a regional visa option is a better solution than National's proposal.
We have proposed regional visas. What we have heard from employers up and down the country is that a one-size-fits-all approach does not work. Action that needs to be taken in Auckland is not suitable for what is needed in Queenstown. So what we want to do is to regionalise the skill shortage list. The Queenstown district could have its own skill shortage list that identifies the particular skills that are needed in that region, and then the visa holder would be required to live and work in that region for their visa to remain valid. And that would actually give regions the opportunity to put occupations that for which there is a genuine shortage in their region onto that skills list, even though it might not make it onto a nationwide skills list.
The final changes are due to be announced by the government soon. Mina Amso, The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, immigration laws flip-flop for workers in Queenstown, and we attend the annual midwinter ball at Dunedin's Larnax Castle. Competitive eating events can be quite a drawcard for crowds. John Keith witnessed a giant burger being demolished in mere minutes by an overseas visitor to Geraldine.
Randy Santel is a big lad from Missouri, and when he got to Geraldine in South Canterbury, he was hungry. Randy eats big meals for a living.
Hey everybody, this is Randy Santel, Atlas with Atlas and Zeus Promotions, the proud owner of foodchallenges.com. Very, very excited today because if I finish this massive 2-kilo burger in under 30 minutes, I will have wins in 20 countries total. So I am in New Zealand, I'm on the South Island, I'm going for overall win number 535.
At Geraldine Central Cafe, he faced the Gothenburger, a 2-kilogram monster packed with minced chuck steak, bacon, cheese, a whole lettuce, 2 tomatoes and sauce wrapped in a giant bun.
Over 300 people have tried this thing. It's the only real food challenge that I know of on the South Island, and it looks delicious, but I've got 30 minutes to finish.
The record for eating the Gotham was 23 minutes. Randy knocked it off in 9. He hardly came up for air. His technique was spellbinding. He pulled the burger apart and grabbed what he could.
All right, thank you to Central Cafe for helping us get here. Like I said, over 300 people have tried this thing. Only 3 have won. The record is, this was on his second time, the guy finished in 23 minutes and 15 seconds. So we're going to try to smash that, and they got it cooked perfectly, medium rare, looks awesome. Let's see.
And then he started feeding it in. The crowd were aghast. On he went until, at 9 minutes 7 seconds, crumbs and all, it was all in, as well as several glasses of water. To wash all that down, he had a can of pop. For Randy, it was just another challenge, and around the world he has beat more than 500 food-eating exploits. His exploits are recorded on his YouTube videos, from which he earns advertising money to pay his way. In short, he is eating his way to fame and fortune. A big crowd packed into the cafe to see him take on the Gotham, and they let out a roar when Randy, flexing his biceps, declared the job done. From Geraldine, he headed off to Auckland, where, surprise, surprise, he had another eating challenge lined up. John Keast, The South Today.
The annual Poultry, Pigeon and Canary Show was held in Oamaru last weekend. Poultry fans of all ages flocked to Oamaru for the event. Rudy Adrian reports.
You don't appreciate how many variations of domesticated birds there are until you attend a poultry show. Oamaru's Drill Hall was full to the gunnels with chickens, pigeons and canaries last weekend for an annual show with the entire South Island well represented.
So this year there's about 800 entries, which is kind of down just a little bit on last year, but we're always around for the normal show. We're normally around that 800 mark.
The Oamaru show is one of the main events on any bird fancier's calendar.
The southern exhibitors from here south and the northern exhibitors from up in the northern part of the island, they all congregate in Oamaru because it's central, and they have the last big showdown for the year, and we have a bit of a social gathering tonight, and everyone, we do a bit of horse trading tomorrow, swapping birds around, and people get, new birds for their breeding program for the new season, and this is the show that it all happens at, so it's always very popular with the exhibitors.
Those exhibiting, such as Brian Glassy, are old hands at the game of breeding birds.
Well, I started showing in 1968, because, well, I'd shown a few silkies before then, but the barred rocks I showed in 68, so that's 50 years next year, isn't it?
It's almost without a doubt that next year we'll see Brian Glassy back again to exhibit his new flock. Rudy Adrian, The South Today.
High spirits and hot haggis were the ticket at Larnac Castle this weekend for their annual Cadbury Winter Ball. The Victorian-styled revellers had travelled from as far as Wellington to enjoy an evening of music, food and dancing to round out the city's chocolate carnival. In attendance was the South Today's Rosal Labone.
A once-in-30-years weather event didn't deter hundreds of Larnac-loving ballgoers who were eager to waltz and promenade into Larnac Castle's banquet hall for the annual Winter Ball. I'm Rosal Labone, here at the 33rd annual Larnac Castle Winter Ball. People from all corners of the South Island are here tonight, dressed in their Victorian finery for a night of fun and frivolity.
This began his life as a rockabilly dress, and I see you've got all the bells and whistles on here. Where are you from, sir?
From Wellington at the moment, just here for the ambiance and the enjoyment.
And the dancing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did you come from?
Burnham military camp.
Oh, right. There's quite a few Cantabrians here tonight, aren't there? There's quite, it's a thing that, it's Christchurch's got a bit of castle envy, do you reckon?
Yeah.
New Zealand's only castle was built in 1871 by merchant, baron and politician William Larnac for his first wife Eliza. The tragic story of Larnac's life and death is the stuff of Kiwi legends. It took more than 200 workmen 3 years to build the castle shell, and master European craftsmen spent a further 12 years embellishing the interior. In 1885, a 3,000 square foot ballroom was added. The ballroom was built as a 21st birthday present for Larnac's favourite daughter Kate in 1887. When she died at the age of 26 of typhoid, Larnac never visited this room again. Her ghost is still reputed to haunt the ballroom. But any ghosts from the past were driven out this Friday night by the happy crowd on the dance floor. This year is special as it's the 50th anniversary of the castle's renovation, including the ballroom with its 3 open fireplaces. The chefs, musicians and organisers are a big part of what brings people to the ball every year.
It's in New Zealand's only castle, so nobody else can have a ball quite like we can.
A good organised chaos, that's how we call it.
It's a great night, it still goes on, there's still a demand for it. We very rarely have to advertise and people just keep coming back.
Then came the centrepiece of the evening's entertainment, the haggis. As the witching hour of midnight arrived, carriages drew up to Larnac to take the revellers back home as they said goodbye to William Larnac and his 3 wives for another winter. Rosal Labone, The South Today.
And that's it for Southern Newsweek this week. Get online and check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with the Southern News via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.